Yeah, let's talk vuln remediation stuff. I was starting to type up um let's see here. Just reading your comment now. Um
Oh yeah, I got rid of the individual ones because I like not having them. Makes more sense. And then the other one was I think we'll end people up where they started. So I
mhm,
think this flow is probably we can talk about this flow first, and we can talk about the other one
sure.
next. The other one we're gonna have more to talk about, I think.
Yeah, so the title flow is a bit weird here because um remediate all.
Or I could just say remediate. It doesn't have to say
Yeah,
all.
like it may actually be more useful to start with the CVE page
Okay,
for reasons I'll talk through.
okay. All right, let's do that.
Okay. So the question here is right now we don't group anything by title on this page, and we probably should because remediate all right now. Let me see if I can find an example of this because this happened recently.
Well, right now it seems like we do have software which has like a whole bunch of different things on it. This is a
Yeah, so
bad
like CVE 2025 24216,
uh
um
25 2416.
24216.
Okay.
All right. So as an example, this has like this is actually a really good example of
Mm.
things kind of going in all different directions. Uh,
Hmm.
so the Safari update, like we're not going to have anything for that. The OS updates are out of scope for this. We might be able to do something with that. That's more of an MDM thing. Um, the packages here, we're not going to have remediations for those either, um, because while they are dev packages, um, it is not going to make sense to upload those as software titles and remediate those individually because they're libraries, and what you would normally do on Linux is like apt update apt full upgrade or whatever. Um, so let's say, I don't know, if Safari for Windows still exists, and it was actually in here, and we had um, a fleet maintained app for Safari for Windows. That is the only, and let's say we had multiple versions of Safari for Windows in here. Um, that is the only thing that we could actually remediate out of this entire list because everything else is either built into the OS or effectively built into the OS. Like
Right,
patching on a software title basis would not be the right remediation for any of the rest of these.
right.
So putting as a top level of like just like fix this entire CVE for me um, breaks down as soon as you wind up with a CVE like this.
Okay. So this goes back to your idea. Like this is also why you want to have remediate on each line, but then we should take if this is Windows Safari, we should just combine Windows Safari into one line.
That's my thought. Yeah. So
Okay.
if we combine stuff down to a single software title,
Mhm.
then we can figure out whether we have the capability of remediating that by patching,
Mhm.
and like that's that's implementation details that we'll have to figure out, but like it is at least possible.
Mhm.
Because like it is possible in the same way that the add software button is possible. We have the information to do that in some cases. We want to be more conservative on showing that here because we don't want to prompt you to upload a custom package to remediate a library vulnerability. It doesn't make sense at all to do that. It would
Right.
it would be a net negative. But for cases where it's like you either have that software title already there, or there's VPP or FMA, or even potentially that software title in another team, those are the cases where it's like, hey, we know how to fix this problem.
Hmm.
We fix this problem by, um, if there is a resolved in version, which for the Linux packages for this, there is not. But if there's a resolved in version and the app is not built into the OS like Safari is,
Hmm.
and we either have the package or can get it. Those are the cases where it's like, okay, we can remediate this. We have that link. Um,
Hmm.
I think my preference would be on a per title basis, which again requires some rework on this page. But
Oh, yeah, that makes
honestly,
sense.
that's fine because this page um, should be like we should be grouping stuff by title anyway, and we'll have enough information with that previous ticket. I guess it's 27825
Hmm.
to group software by title here. Um, so if we get there, then that remediate button's like, okay, fix this CVE for for these, and then how many of those three options that I mentioned yesterday, um, you know, y'all can figure that out. But the initial option at least would be, write me a policy, attach the installer to it, and for anything that is below the resolved in version for this CVE, go ahead and install the latest version, and we can, if somebody has an older version of the package installed or uploaded that's still vulnerable, we can say like, hey, that this isn't going to work yet. Either we can get you a newer version of this package, or you can do it yourself. But like as it stands right now, the Chrome version that you're talking about um, is 134.06990. You're trying to remediate something that the uploaded software is not new enough to remediate. Go fix that first, and then we'll help you from there.
Well, I guess so, with our remediation thing, I thought we were going to, like, first of all, we would only show it if we know that we'd be able to do it for them, correct? And then,
Yes, the one tricky bit here is if if they have a stale package already on that team,
mhm,
um, we should probably do something more communicative than overwriting that package, whether that is just an explanation of like what we're going to do as part of that process is like, hey, we noticed that like you have Chrome, cool. It's too old of a version. It's not going to actually fix the problem. As part of this, number one, we're going to bump that up to the latest version, Biofleet maintained. Number two, um, we're going to create the policy, with the automation on it, and number three, that policy is going to run within an hour on affected hosts when they're online, and that's going to fix this. So like explaining what we're going to do there, and then the admin can opt into us um, automatically editing the package. That
mhm.
seems perfectly reasonable to me, and it's effectively a similar workflow to what we already have a ticket for on auto update of or on demand update of FMA. Um,
Right.
that is a slightly different process where step one, if they don't have a package at all, then we're saying like, hey, we're going to pull in this package, and then we can do whatever we need to do. Or if they have a package and it is a late enough version that this issue is already resolved, then we can say like we're going to create a policy that's going to install this version. You're good to go. So how deep we have to go in terms of additional steps of that kind of package upload is going to vary depending on the existing state of the system. And I think we want to communicate that just so that um, it's clear to an admin or security engineer that, here is what we are doing for you.
Mhm. Okay, so I'll make this more verbose. Should it say remediate or patch? Since we're
Remediate, um, and I would say we may want to do like remediate CVE whatever for Google Chrome. Um, I
oops.
realize that, or either like remediate CVE whatever for Google Chrome, or just like remediate for Google Chrome, um, because this is focused on specifically if you have a version older than XYZ,
Mm, oops.
then bump it to a version that no longer has that issue. Um, that is different than a standard patching use case where, like right now, if it's older than the latest version, then bump it up to the latest version. It's more similar to the one of the other patching use cases that we talked about of like, hey, if it's older than X version, then bump up to Y version, which like
Oh,
the main reason that that patching use case would come up is for things like CVE remediation.
okay. So the other question I have then is once I've done this,
Yep,
it's not going to happen this quickly.
correct.
So,
Um, and like that is why I mentioned that like concept of live policies or whatever, where you can potentially short circuit the normal 1 hour policy window to get things patched more quickly. Um, and
so should we have like a run policy button here?
um, we should like that is likely its completely own ticket that's something to talk with Shaw about of like, hey, this would help for vulnerable remediation scenarios. We can potentially do the work for that, but it is, it's queries and policies, and it would normally be a orchestration thing. Um,
Right. I mean,
but like as a as another iteration on this that feels like um pretty substantial responsiveness improvement versus like, hey, set this up and wait up to an hour per host and eventually stuff will come in and
right.
say no. Like that's not going to clear up all those old versions even if we do that live policy run, because for hosts that are offline, um they're they're going to stay offline, and whatever inventory they
Right.
had
Right.
is it's still going to be accurate and they still won't be patched yet, but also they are not checking in, so there's not really anything we can do at that time. The
Mhm.
the normal policy cadence will eventually fix those hosts once they come online.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, so let's see here. The If we go back to the CVE page for a moment, um, if we
So actually,
if we have that roll up where it's like, hey, we're remediating this, we would want to link that back to where if you hit the CVE page, it's visible that it's like, hey, I've already put a remediation policy in effect here. Um,
right.
this will, as hosts check in, will eventually resolve itself, and then actually being able to click through, it's like, okay, that's what this is. Um, there are a few different ways of handling that on the back end. We don't necessarily need a fleet maintained policy in order to handle those because we're just going to be referencing a policy ID either way.
Right. I mean, it's not, I mean, we talked about it not being a fleet maintained for now.
Yeah.
Anyway, it would show it up.
Yep. And again, the reason for not being fleet maintained for now is
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, no, no. I totally get your thing because you want people to be able to see and edit it.
Yes. And also it makes it a lot clearer that that is a point in time remediation, um, which is going to be particularly important if we do anything around software titles because um, if we want to be like, well, remediate all issues with I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in a minute.
So, well, is there anything else you want to talk about with this? We can totally jump.
Um, I think I think we're fine here. It'll be interesting to see what the kind of grouping versions into a single title looks like. I think that's going to be a nice UX improvement. How we whether we collapse those by default or not is an open question. But
What do you mean by collapsing by default?
um, whether we show each of these when you load the page up, either showing each of these version lines, even though we're going to have like a heading above that saying like, "Hey, this is Google Chrome." Um,
I mean, it would look like our current software thing, no? Where we do roll them up. Like I imagine it would look exactly like this.
I think we want to still show affected um we want to have at least the ability to say like, hey, X version is on Y number of hosts that actually be accessible. Whether that is accessible behind one click or whether that is accessible on page load,
Oh, I see, I
I
see.
don't have a strong opinion, but
I see.
um like saying, five versions of Chrome it are, bugged this way, that hiding that is less useful, particularly in the vulnerability management use case where it's like, well, I'm solving this by patching, like how out of date are these? And I want to be able to see that at a glance.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll think about that.
Okay. Um, One other interesting, like, given that we're looking at this on more pages than just the Vuln page, can we take a look at the version page for a minute? Because that's actually a
Oh,
more cut and dry use case.
right, right, right.
Yeah, if you go Chrome or that, yeah, let's do Chrome and then let's hop over to older version. Yeah, that perfect. Okay, so in this case, we have a lot of vulnerabilities.
Mhm.
Um, I don't understand why we don't show resolution version here for the vulns. That is, can we pop open DevTools, hit the API, or refresh the page and see if we have resolved in version there? Um, Network tab.
Network.
And that is going to be um, the 545271 XHR there. Further down, the other
Oh,
one.
this one?
That one. Okay, so here we have that resolved in version. Can you expand out the width of we can close DevTools at this point. Yeah, expand out the width. Let's see if we have resolved in version. We don't. That's
The fact
weird. We
I
should fix
think.
that.
Okay. Anyway,
Like that's an easy fix. That's front end only. We should have that. Um,
okay. Resolved in version is something we should show on this page. So
yes.
that. Uh, where are my notes? That's weird. Show result. Okay.
So the in terms of being able to remediate, if we have um, resolved inversion, we can probably do some sort of sort on that. Say like, okay, if I want all these CVEs gone, then I need to be on at least version whatever it is.
Mhm.
And um potentially, and this gets into kind of a version specific remediation. Maybe we want to do that, maybe we don't, but maybe that is an opportunity of like, hey, I want a button to make all these CVEs go away. That's going to happen by patching. And so maybe there's a remediation workflow here. Um, like it gets a little bit more murky because again, this is kind of boxing us into checking for a specific version, and we want to probably see with customers whether that's actually useful. But if it is, then this would be the place to do that. Like, hey, given that I'm on this version, um, go ahead and install an upgrade of this software, and that'll make the problem go away. And at that point, if we have something like that, we can also make it visible on this page that's like, hey, this version is covered by this remediation. Um, so effectively, any hosts that are still on here are um, are hosts that haven't checked in yet. Um, and once they check in, then we're gonna attempt an install of a patched version of Chrome.
Yeah, the fact that we don't surface host numbers here is also kind of ridiculous to me.
Um, so we don't actually need host numbers here because we have host numbers at the top. This version is so the CVE list here is
Hmm.
scoped to this version. So like every single one of those two hosts that have this have these same set of vulnerabilities,
Oh, have
and
it
those
all.
vulnerabilities
Oh,
are like this entire page is scoped to that version. If we had host counts on each vulnerability here, either they would need to be the exact same
well,
as
here's
that
the
host count at the top, or it would be confusing.
here's the confusing thing. It says view all hosts, and it takes me to this page of all these other things.
Yeah, that is indeed confusing, and that we should probably take that link entirely away
I agree.
here.
I'm gonna drop this link.
Yeah. Because if you want to filter stuff by CVE, then you click through to the actual CVE and then view all
Right.
hosts from there, and then it's a lot clearer what that link is doing.
Right. Agreed.
Okay. So that way,
Okay.
like, okay, view all hosts, the one place that we can do it on this page goes to the host with that version, which is what you would expect. And then
Right.
view all hosts on the CVE, that's on the CVE page, that will also do what you expect, either overall for that one or
Right.
for a given either software title or version or whatever for the others.
100%.
Okay, so that cleans that up, and that gives us the space to actually have the resolved in version, which is a lot more important here.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay, that works.
Not all of these will have a resolved inversion though, correct? Like at
Correct.
this. Okay.
Yeah, like looking at the example that we saw earlier, where it was that CD that had like OS stuff and Linux stuff and whatever. Um, Not all is going to have a resolved version, and
Oh, right. Yeah.
like at that point we can't we can't necessarily remediate it using the information that we have right now. There's there is a universe in which we say like, hey, to remediate this, then apt update whatever, and that'll
Right.
actually fix it.
Right.
But that's out of scope for this.
Right.
Um, so let's see here. Can briefly talk about the software title page. I'm less I'm less convinced, particularly for the first few iterations that we touched this at all, um, because the remediations make a bit more. Well, actually, hold on. If we do version specific remediations, like
Mhm.
from the version page,
Mhm.
then we can um, and we can have the either the ability to hit the remediate button here or just like, hey, this is being worked on next to the vulnerabilities um, uh, on that particular row in the vulnerabilities column of like, hey, this is going to go away as hosts go online because we're going to upgrade the package. Um, the but probably more importantly here on policies, this will be tied to policies. The policies will show up here. We will want to do like remediate CVE 2025 whatever on Google Chrome, so it is clear that that policy is not necessarily going to fix all the things. It's going to fix the effects of like basically get all of my hosts off of this vulnerable version.
Well, so then on this case, oops, sorry. So if you do that, then what was our page? So then on this page,
Yep.
if you remediate and remediates all of these vulnerabilities, will the thing say remediate? Will these each
Remediate vulnerabilities for Chrome 134.0.699, 699, like that version.
okay, so that's what
So
they
it,
say.
it is it is slicing things differently, um,
Right.
and that I'm not clear on admin preferences on one way or the other. That's
You're
my,
clear
my
on what?
guess is that there's going to be an opinion one way or the other of like which is more useful. My guess is remediating by CVE is going to be more useful.
I mean, I'm gonna put them both in.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to make sure what the nomenclature would be.
Yeah. No, that looks fine. And yeah, we are at
Oh, yeah.
time,
Okay,
like,
cool. All right. I have
but
stuff
like
to.
this is definitely moving in the right direction.
Okay, sweet. We can talk about this at the next, well, we'll talk about this next week, I guess.